I vote that we approve the minutes. Can we approve them both at the same time?
Yes.
I read both of them. They looked great. I vote to approve the minutes.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve 3A and B. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
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 All opposed? Okay, thank you for that. Point 4, training presentations. We'll go to 4A, discussion only, administrative and legislative duties. Presenter, Christine Lane.
Hey, I want to first thank you guys and tell you I am super excited. I got hired as the new zoning administrator for Tremont City, and I'm very excited to work with you guys. The zoning administrator's roles are the day-to-day enforcing the code and making sure that the city's following our own laws and the state laws, the city's laws and the state laws. So I'm really excited. The city is still working on getting a full-time planner. I'm just part-time. And so we will be working together with you very closely. So I'm excited to create a relationship and to work with you guys on a more intimate level, I guess. As far as the training goes, we are going to, I have a slide presentation that we will go through. If you have questions, discussion would be great. I didn't have anything for you guys as far as like administrative or legislative, and we didn't have any business that we were ready to present. And they mentioned that you guys need to get training hours. So this will count as a training hour. We decided to make this for one day. You need to get like 4 hours of training. So this will be one of the hours. Does that make sense? Okay. How many of you guys have one of these books? I put them out. You don't take them home, but that's kind of what we're looking at. That's this, everything that is on these slides I pulled from this book or this Utah State Code or Tremont State Code. So those are all my sources. I didn't reference them all on these slides, but anywhere, like almost everything is word for word from these. There are some times I started referencing them. If you want me to reference, I can find references if you need references in the future. The first thing I want to go over is actually on page 18. You can go to the next slide. There is a little chart that goes over. I found this very helpful for me, and these are as I just feel it's a good. You might know a lot of this, but it's good to go over the basics anyway, so that we can kind of all get on the same page. The chart just says what the difference when it comes to land use and developing land use within the city. These are the different players. You've got the elected and appointed citizen planners. You've got professional planners, neighborhood and third parties, and applicant and property owners. And all of these people have to work together to create the land use development. And so the central, you guys as planning commission would be considered citizen planners. And so that is your guys' job. I would be one of the professional planners as a zoning administrator. So I'm here as just to coordinate, give you guys information and take and receive information to kind of relay information back and forth. So that's kind of just a little, any questions on how this works?
Are you still going to do the community?
We're working on, I'm starting to delegate off to the community. I will go and facilitate at the NPI, the community things, like be the liaison for the city, but we are in the process of getting heads of each district to create the executive committee so that they can take more of the weight with that as far as, but I will still be involved until we can get a different, if there's another arrangement we can do in the future. But I'm very grateful for the citizens that have stepped up that are helping, but I am still going to be a liaison for them too. Yeah.
So can you go run by me what you're doing? What is your role, your title?
The zoning administrator at Tremont City. The zoning administrator takes care and makes sure that we're following zoning. So I'm in on when a developer comes in and gives us a plan, I have to make sure that it meets code. And then I'm in charge of administering at DRC. So I'm just the point in Tremont that people come to, kind of like a check to make sure that they have met code, and that I am the liaison to get all the information to where it needs to go.
So you work with the inspector?
Yeah.
With,
so when Jeff was here, he was the city planner and the zoning administrator. We didn't have two. We're going to be having two. The zoning administrator handles the day-to-day everything, enforcing code, how it is. The city planner helps to plan out in the future. And so we will be working together. They'll say, hey, this is what I want to do. I'll say, hey, yes or no, this goes within code. So that's kind of how those two roles are distinct. It's good to have the separation of powers there, because then it's what can we practically do right now based on what our code is versus where are we going in the future. Okay, does that make sense?
And then I'm the code administrator.
Yeah.
So then if we need to add to the code or change the code or.
Let me go through him.
Or if we need something piped to the court, then, but you know, it'd be me piping to the court on that stuff.
Okay.
So are you still code enforcement?
Yeah. Yeah. So we work together a lot.
So we're part of what, the title may change, but we're part of what would be the former planning department. And so this is Tremont, and we're now starting to reform, you know, what's going to be the kernel of the new planning department.
So is Jeff still working or no? He's on.
He's got it, yeah. So,
And are we third-party contracting the planner at this point?
no,
We're not, we don't have a planner.
we don't have a planner. We've got me coming in as much as I can.
How close are we at determining a new planner?
Close. We're doing follow-up interviews on Friday.
How many finalists are there?
There are 2 or 3 finalists that we're looking at. I know 2 for sure. I don't know them personally, but I know that there are 2 that they're, and I'm not in charge of hiring, so.
Do you know they're from Tremont?
They are not, to my knowledge,
They're not.
that I know. Well, I don't know. I actually don't know, like, where they are actually from, but they have they have education in planning, so. But there were like 6 or 7 applicants, and they were all really good from what I heard, so. Okay, any other questions? Okay, if it's all right with you, I've kind of done my training to kind of go through all of these, and I figured if we need to go longer on one thing, we can, versus like 10 minutes just for administrative versus legislative. Are you okay just to kind of flow with just a training? Okay. All right, so next slide, if you want to go. We'll jump in. As far as legislative and administrative, a lot of this is for public too, because I think this is a public meeting, and it's good for the public to understand this, even if you already understand all these things. But the legislative duties of, sorry, I'm gonna try to get my here. There's a difference between legislative actions and administrative actions. And really legislative actions have to do with anytime you're changing an ordinance, amending to an existing ordinance, adoption to the general plan, anything that's a major change, whenever like at the very last point right there, it says whenever a fundamental change is made to zoning regulations, and I'll talk about zoning regulations in Utah code in just a minute, or a specific property zoning status, it will require the applicant to go through the legislative process, if that makes sense. And so that's the only a body of Utah State Code says that only the body of elected officials can make legislative decisions. And so that's important to know, because I love how Utah, they give cities autonomy to be able to govern the way that they want to govern. And so they give a lot of what's called legislative discretion with legislative decisions. They're a lot more strict when it comes to administrative decisions. Administrative decisions, the city has to have a lot more proof to defend itself versus legislative decisions where you have a lot of discretion, because you know the people, you're elected by the people. And do you guys have any questions on that?
So I was under the impression that we have administrative and legislative.
You will, oh, yes,
Certain.
in certain aspects.
Obviously.
Yes, but everything legislative has to come through you. So that's where the bulk of your time will be spent, is with the legislative matters. Not every
Finalized with city council.
Yes, and
So
finalized, and your
they become
recommendation.
the administrative, or is at this point
Yep.
to say yes.
Yep, and I don't think not every administrative action has to come to you guys. Just because administrative actions are the day-to-day things that the city does. And so, but there are some that have to be approved by the planning commission and the city.
But legislative is basically anything that's, from what I understand, is like what's manipulating code.
Yeah.
Anytime code is.
Or if you think of it as land, like dirt, because it's land development, anything that changes the way you can use that dirt or
Yeah.
what you can put on that dirt, versus like density, or if it's going to be a commercial, or if it's going to be whatever it's going to be, whatever changes the basic function of what that dirt is used for. If it goes from agricultural to residential, whatever is going to change that dirt is going to most likely encounter a legislative decision.
Let me tag something.
Yes, go ahead.
Write this down and you can do your own research on it. The question I'm going to throw to you, is Utah a Dillon's rule or a home rule?
Dillon is in the name, Dillon.
Yeah, Dillon, like the name Dillon, and then you'll have Dillon rule and you'll have home rule. I'm going to kind of end up answering this, but what Christine was kind of mentioning, Utah is unique because there literally is only 2 states in the United States that do things the way Utah does that. And so Utah's its own happy blend. It actually falls under the Hutchinson rule when you really go into it. It's more home rule, but it's not really home rule. So the reason I'm challenging you to research this is because you'll learn more when you're reading up all of the different versions that are out there. And the reason I'm telling you this is because in your capacity, it's real easy for people to move into the state or in the area and say, well, I came from Colorado and Colorado does it this way. Well, the reason we don't do it like Colorado is because Utah, the way all of this is put together and your capacity in this is done the way Utah does it. And so Utah doesn't really do it like anyone else. I believe the other one is South Carolina. I'd have to go back and look. We literally do all of this our own way for the way the legislative process works, for the way we do code for municipalities and all that.
For example, like if you have a building code and you want to build in California, they have state standards that every city has to meet.
Right.
We have state standards here too, but they're not as strict and rigorous, and they give cities more digression. So a code inspector is going to have to learn a different code for Tremont versus Brigham, and a different code for different municipalities. And so we really get to shape what we want our community to be like, and I love that. I love that and that's your guys' job when we go over code, is to make sure, what do we want the laws to be in Tremont?
So not too long ago though, I mean, and I didn't read the full article, so I can't really speak to it, but Governor Cox was talking about overriding some of this on a governor level, which really dispels the only reason we're here, right?
Right.
Have we heard anything lately about that or no?
Most of that it's still in flux, to do a generalized answer to the question. But there's a huge embodiment. So case in point, I think it was Clinton, and don't quote me on that, but you had different little cities, and the procedure benefits the smaller communities than the larger communities, because now you can tailor make what we need. So the way we do things in Tremont's obviously different than Clearfield.
And it can't encumber those big areas.
But when he made that announcement, yeah, you had a lot of communities come forward saying, no, we don't want to. But he was trying to streamline that because they get inundated with so many complaints on how code is done and how some of this stuff is put together.
And all the little towns right around Salt Lake City that are all bumped up against each other that have to deal with different code and different rules.
Exactly.
And it's like, you're all in the same city. Why can't you just marry the code? It's like, no, you can't do that.
When I go to a code training, it's a happy, that's why we do it monthly, is because so much changes as 1 year goes along and everybody does it slightly different than everyone else.
So that's why I have the full-time job of figuring out what is our code and how should we be implementing it, so that we not only are protecting our citizens, but protecting the investments of the developers that come here too. Because we need to make sure that they're protected as well. Because if you do something that's not in a code and an alliance, if it's not done in the correct order, the procedural order, if you don't mail out the letters, if you don't do the public notice, or if you don't do those different things, those things can void and null and put a developer at risk as well. So we want to make sure that we are fair to our citizens so that they have a due diligence, and then we also make sure that the developers are protected as well. So my job is not to decide either or, it's just to make sure that we follow the rules. Okay, so that's a legislative action. Next slide. So pretty much if a decision affects what can be built, how much can be built, or how land can be used at a fundamental level, it's legislative. So we already know that. Go to the next slide. Now, administrative actions, when the Council Planning Commission Board of Adjustments Appeals Authority or their staff administrates and enforces a legislative adopted plan ordinance, they are administrative or quasi-judicial acts, and they are not entitled to the same difference as legislative acts. Pretty much they are held to the law of the city, the city's codes, and the state code. So the courts are a lot more strict when it comes to to enforcing code that's already in. If we do something that varies from it, we don't have as much legislative discretion. Does that make sense? Like we have to follow, and that protects property rights, people's property rights and their owners, okay? Any questions on administrative decisions? It's working within a framework. So like say like you have a development come in and it's zoned R112 or R18, R18, and yet they want to come in, we can't tell them they can't put, like, well, but we want half-acre lots, but it's quarter-acre lots. And we can't deny an application if they are meeting all the standards of the code. There's that's because it's already in place. You're not changing anything. You're not changing the land use. You're not changing anything around it. So they can come in and they can build as it is currently zoned. And if we as a city say, nope, we're going to deny that application because we don't want it, and we're challenged, the courts are going to be way harder on the city.
So if we use the example of what we quasi-legislatively did over the Radio Hill development.
The overlook?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
They haven't met all the codes though either. So like, right, because we changed the zoning,
Yes.
but then going forward, have they met the requirements? And
That's where they're wanting to do a PUD overlay. And that's where we're going to come in. Since the PUD overlay changes the base density, it is therefore considered, and that's when we're going to be one of the next things, is where does PUDs come in all of this? Okay, because that's where there's a lot of questions. And so do you want me to answer that now, or
you can wait, that's fine, as
okay,
long as it's coming.
because I have a whole slide
I'll be on the edge of my seat.
on how all that fits together, okay?
Don't skip
So
your
with
slides.
that, if a developer comes in, buys land that is already zoned at an R10.
Yeah.
The city can't say, you aren't allowed to build on that.
Yeah.
So like the city can't
Well,
stop.
Well, it depends on what they want to build.
If
they want-
but if they're
they want to build
building-
apartments,
If
then
they're
we can say
building on the correct, like whatever it's already zoned at,
Following the same code.
if they're
Well,
following that code, the
density.
city can't, like, they have to approve.
unless there is a caveat. If it is shown that it is going to hurt the city because we don't have the infrastructure or the public utilities for it, then the cities can deny or hold a permit.
But we have to really be able to prove that.
Yes, that's the thing. We have to be able to city prove, we do not have the capacity for this development right now. And that's where you can get into moratoriums, or that's where you can get into different things like that, because the city will never be required to approve things that's going to hurt it financially and other ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but like if it's already zoned that way, we can't just say, oh, well, we don't want growth,
Yeah.
so we're not gonna be able to build it.
Yeah.
Like, we have to approve it.
And that's where we're going to talk about public clamor in a little bit, because you guys deal a lot with public clamor being on the legislative end. Administrative people, they hear it too, but that's where we're gonna come into that. But you're exactly right. You have to have a lot more. Oh, here, I'll show you right here. This is exactly what it says, actually. It says with administrative decisions will be upheld if they are supported. Okay, if you make an administrative decision and it's like saying we can't develop this, they will be upheld in court. This is on page 39 if you want to look. If they are supported by substantial evidence in the record of the decision, so they have to have substantial and do not violate federal, state, or local statutes, laws, or ordinances. So that's where your substantial evidence is. But legislative laws in court, they will be held if it is reasonably debatable that they advance the purpose of the land use regulations, which are outlined in the Land Use Development and Management Acts. So pretty much for legislative decisions, it just has to be reasonably debatable that this is going in the direction that the city wants to go, okay?
And that's like anything that's approved by city council.
That's any legislative thing that's
Yeah,
approved
yeah.
by city
Yeah,
council,
that's what I'm saying.
yes.
And that's the three things that we're changing. That's my end, her end,
Yeah.
in the zoning conscript and the planning end.
Yeah.
It literally falls into that caption she just read.
Okay.
Can that make sense?
Okay, next slide. This is one that I did just for you guys because you have a lot of, when you're taking in comments, I would hope that you listen to them and then decide, listen to the public and listen to the people, but then decide, is this a legislative or an administrative decision? So this was on page 39 and page 53 if you want to look at it, but on page 39, public clamor, and do you guys know what public clamor is? it's self-evident. It's just people that are talking in administrative decisions, legislative decisions uphold the existing land use or ordinance codes. Therefore, sorry, that was just an introduction. This is what I wanted was public clamor is not substantial evidence, like you were saying, and an administrative decision cannot be based primarily on citizens' comments at a public hearing, petitions, or social media campaigns. So if you have a public person, then they have it's zoned for commercial and they have their house right next to it and they come in and they're like, I want residential there. If it is currently zoned there, as much as they say, and it's an administrative decision, that you cannot, you have to have substantial evidence if you're gonna make a change there, okay? But when there's legislative decisions, this is where you guys use your judgment. It says, they decide if the proposed plan or change to the plan promotes the general welfare of the community. As they are legislative acts, public clamor and informal opinions are acceptable considerations in enacting local and land use regulations. Oppositions by citizens may be noted by the council members of commissioners, and they may base their decisions on public support or comment. So that's something that I hope you will take as a tool for you to use as you're in your seats, because that's your guys' job. And that's part of when you go back to the slide 2. Go back to slide 2. If you look at that, if you look at how we all interact and work together, you've got that's the public's duty. That's their job, is to come in and comment to you guys. And the developers have the same right too. And so that's something that you definitely have. So we all work together in that capacity. Okay?
So we're balancing whatever makes the most sense based
For
on
the
both.
community as a whole. As if you look into the definition as elected and appointed as citizen planners, your job is to look at things as a whole and try to figure out where do we want to go as a whole, okay? So this is what I would like to have happen as the zoning administrator, something that I think is really, really gonna help. We need to get the land use plan. We're gonna start working on that, I think, here pretty soon. What slide were we on? Okay, we are on slide 6, 7. We kind of already went to over that. I'll say one more thing. So this is just a graph, and it's on page 26 if you want to look in your books. But it just shows and explains that you have more discretion for legislative decisions versus administrative decisions. And land use is kind of
In building the plan, we have.
That's why we're going to take surveys. That's why we're going to take surveys.
The whole gamut, we can pick.
But you can't,
whatever.
but if you're gonna change the current zoning based on the plan, then you still have to go through legislative processes. You know what I mean? You can't just take a plan and then
Right.
change the zoning, but you can put in the plan, this is what we would like to see happen. And then if the zoning changes when it comes up, if it's supported in the plan, then that's more, that gives you like, oh yeah, we're going in this direction, okay? Does that make sense?
So-
Does that answer your question?
I'm trying to build on what ends up being administrative decisions, because like, for example, we reference the land use plan as almost authority.
Mhm.
So, and it's actually super helpful when we can do that.
Yeah.
Because then it's not so much of, hey, we're up here just arbitrarily making choices that affect your life. It's like, we actually, and I feel like this has been part of the conversation in the recent past. It's trying to decide when we made the last land use plan and what exactly the parts of that plan were updated or not. And it's, people calling for update, which I'm totally fine with. I'm happy to update it because it needs it.
Yeah.
But as far as when the plan is made, it really, to me, depends on who's up here and whether or not we just say, we're going to accept this plan as the rule. We can't, and obviously there's variances, there's little things, like we just had that gentleman that we ended up changing. We went totally against what he was planning, right?
Yeah.
And it was for the better interest of what we thought the city would
You can put the
like.
road through, yeah.
And that was an administrative call, right? How to apply that. And those happen, but when if, I guess what I'm saying is it helps to have that land use plan so that we can make, honestly, less administrative decisions. So,
Well, this actually, the next chapter goes into, if you want to do a land use plan and do it right, you will follow a plan. And there's a quote in here, and I don't have it right here, but it says what cities kind of tend to do is they forget the plan and they deviate and they shoot themselves in the foot if they do that. It doesn't say that exactly, but that's kind of what it says.
that's what happens
Yes,
here.
yeah, and so it really says they stay on track of the plan. And one of the things it suggests doing too is when you go and you make a deviation from the land use plan, accompanying it with an amendment. So then you're to the land use plan, so that we know this is why we're amending the plan. Then you're always referencing back to the plan. And
Which is
that,
also where the PUD
Yes.
even came into existence, because we kept amending and amending and amending and
Yeah.
doing all these different things.
Yeah.
And it's like, why can't we just
have a standard.
give you, here are some basic generalities that you can work with in the framework? Then we don't have to amend the
So you
code
don't have
every
to have-
single time you come up with a different idea. Here's some variances that we allow under these circumstances. And I don't even think we've seen the whole, that whole bit play out yet.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited to see. I think there's going to be some good things that came from what we used to do, which were individual agreements for every single person that came in here. And it's like, gosh, how do you keep track of those and justify yourself later when someone else can't get what they want?
Well, you have a different council that is a little bit stricter than the other council. You're right. You're absolutely right. It needs to be standardized. The idea is a developer can come in here and they look at our land use plan and they say it's zoned R112. Then they plan on developing R112. And if they need a change to that zoning, then there needs to be an amendment to our land use plan so that we know why so we can tell the citizens and ourselves, and we can remind ourselves, why are we deviating from what we currently had here? Does that make sense? We had this zone here. Why are we deviating from it? So, and if you want to use a PUD, then that's something that we have to know. What are the parameters of the PUD? And I'm going to talk about PUD in a minute too. Okay.
Well, I was just going to say, in general terms, you're an advisory board to the council. That would be the legislative process.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that will get blended together because how this functions. And so that's the other reason where NPI and all these, the different outside sources coming in to give opinion and suggestion and different things are so sentinel to the process, is because all of that gets added to what we're discussing in here and putting together in this. And then you guys make a decision on that. That decision ultimately goes before the city council, and they will create the legislative process, whether they like it, they don't like it, or if they want to have changes and have it come back to you.
Okay, I'm gonna read this. I think it's good enough. I've read it enough time. I found it fair. The tendency when a specific issue looms, importantly over municipal land use, however, is for government officials and citizens alike to skip the preliminary steps required. It is state law. We have to have a land use plan. So it is required to have a land use plan. Required to understand the general plan and the related land use ordinance. Skipping such is short-sighted. The entire concept of local land use planning was intended to move from general decision-making to making specific lot-by-lot decisions in light of general community goals. Land use decisions that avoid acknowledging such context are more likely to fail if challenged and more likely to breed cynicism in those most affected. So that is something that hit me. I was like, we need to have a plan. And I really wanted to get on board and help Tremont create that. That's the whole reason I started the NPI, is because I wanted to have a plan where we could follow and then we could work together better.
Which I was going to comment. That's, again, building on that thread I was starting earlier with the land use almost being more authoritative.
Yeah.
Because once we switch out, because it will inevitably happen, like almost making the process of the land use plan coded on our behalf. So it's like we can't deviate from the plan. I would appreciate that even more.
Even the DRC would. Like, I was talking to the people at the DRC, they would love for us just to stay with the land use plan and have a very few zone changes, very few, and just have things go a little bit more, just follow the plan.
Developers like that.
They do.
And they like not having the political side we
It's
have to
easier
go to the
for-
planning commission. Will this planning commission approve it or deny it? It's
Yep.
like, we shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Just follow the plan
That's
and
exactly right.
everything works.
Yep, that's exactly
But
right.
there is some variation because 10
Correct.
years ago, the
Correct.
plan for land use in Tremont might have been a lot different than it is now because the housing market in Utah has completely changed and like that, so that's.
But that's coming from the top.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
That's not
saying, is that the
necessarily
general land use
because of-
plan might need to vary.
Well, it
Between that
it
10
evolves,
years.
and it's further evolved.
And that is exactly why the land use plan is a solid guide, but the ordinances are what supports the land use plan. And so the ordinances are what we use to enforce the general land use plan. So the land use plan is the guide, and then the ordinances, like the PUD ordinance, that helps enforce it. But then also, if we do need to deviate from the plan, that's why we should have an amendment, so that we show why is there a deviation from the plan.
Which I think is easily referenced if challenged. It should be easy to understand, right? Like, it's not 10 years down the road, it comes to, well, now there's this new developer.
Yeah.
Well, and he's got more money. Well, and he's gonna plan on building, this huge infrastructure, and so we're gonna give him this deal on this particular thing. And it's like, that's not necessarily a good justification for, adjusting your plan.
Yeah.
It's like, we still want different roadways. I'm gonna pound that until I'm out of here. Like, we've gotta find a new way to get across this town.
Yep.
And if you can't stick to a plan, because it's gonna offend people. When you have to build a whole causeway across, somebody's yard, basically, in front of somebody's house or behind somebody's house, they're gonna hate you.
Yeah.
They're just literally always going to come to you as their problem.
Well, and
But then look, 20 years down the road, that happens to be a piece of infrastructure that makes perfect sense. But we didn't want to do it 10 years ago because it was hard. We're gonna hurt people's feelings. Like, when we could just say, look, we have to have, because this is part of the plan, we've got to stick to that in some,
But at the same time, that means
Fashion.
we have to be able to look at the plan and say the plan is going to be growing.
that's
So we
right.
can't-
need to update it.
Like, we have to have it be
Right.
ready for.
But without sticking to a plan, you end up with nothing.
Exactly, yeah.
So you end up with, I don't know what to describe, like,
Yeah.
streets that don't intersect, right? The streets in that neighborhood that just run, all of this is because we didn't stay with a plan, and there were,
So it's a
switching
plan of
hands all
motion
the time.
is the easiest way to look at this. And when you talk about some of the dead end streets that we have, the reason we came into that, in a couple of places, especially over here, and, the southwest part of town, you didn't have all of the property owners on the other side. You had somebody that came in on this chunk of ground and this met the criteria.
Yeah.
And this was the vision that they put together. We're gonna have roads that are gonna intersect with this, but the person that owned this chunk of ground that wasn't in on the idea didn't like that idea. And so that's why I say it's always evolving and it's a plan of motion.
And at that point, right, we didn't even have the concept of
We didn't
a
do this.
PUD.
Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
a specific deal with that particular developer.
exactly.
And it's like, of course, your city is not gonna have cohesive connection if you just make peace deal developer
It's
agreements in
easy
every
to look
single
back on how we
transaction.
did things and go, why did you do that that way? Well, we did it that way because that's how things were done and we were an extremely small community. I mean, when you look at where we're at now, you're gonna have 3 dedicated people in what's taken place with this. And so the whole format of where we're going with this.
Which hopefully doesn't change either.
Well, I think by
Right?
having amendments
Right.
rather than changing the whole thing, then you have that history, you have the record of what
Yeah, you
happened
can go
and why
through
it
see what
happened.
happened and why it happened,
Yeah.
where now we don't.
Yeah.
on some stuff.
Well,
We don't know what was built 10 years ago. We don't have those records.
But we're in a unique position right now where we're gonna most likely see some growth, or it might level off a little bit. We don't know. We don't know if it's gonna continue to grow or we're gonna find a leveling. But I do know that we have a lot of growth coming in, and I love that we can work together and we have a lot of good things coming to us in the future as long as we have a plan on what we want to do as a city. And so, one thing that I do want to go with the land, like if you look at the current land use plan, even though the details might change, we could, yeah, go down to page 14. I don't know what slide page it is, but it talks about, it says land use zoning, and there's two columns, there's like a, right there, yeah. In the current plan, there are already, they have like qualities that we want to define ourselves. Number one, these are the goals of our land use plan: is to preserve and enhance Tremont's agricultural character, peaceful lifestyle, and rural atmosphere using careful considered zoning ordinances, preserving environmentally sensitive lands, and providing high quality open space. Number two, concentrate development in existing urban areas, commercial corridors and along arterial and collateral routes. So these are just some. And then it has parks and trails. So not to get into the details of the weeds of that, but to give you the idea that we have some certain standards. I was talking to Zach before I got hired, and I had a lot of people in the city talking to me. I had quite a few interviews and stuff. And I remember Zach said one thing that really hit me, that I really appreciated. And he's like, tell me what is the core value of Tremont? What is our slogan? What is it? And I didn't know. And I don't know, you guys think, what is it? We have the pillars. But he said something else that I really liked. He said, we're the city of connection. And when you take an overall theme like that, city of connection, as I go with every developer, I'm looking, how do we connect? How do sidewalks connect? How can we connect from one city to another? How are we getting trails? And I don't feel like we are really a city of connection yet. Like, I feel like we are separated in different areas, and how do we connect as a city? And that can be reflected in the ordinances and the land use map, is how can we create a city of connection? Because I want our city to be a city where we can connect and people can safely walk from their houses across the street to Jeannie Stevens Park, where we need to have sidewalks and lights, and we don't have that. So how are we going to attract that? And what are we doing to make sure that comes into our city? So
to the bus stop, which is how you
Yes.
functional with us.
Yep, that is. No sidewalks, the sidewalks, that's the one that I will do, Yep, my 5-year-old was walking on a dirt road, and it's important to have the city of connection. So that's something that we can do as an overall when we develop the land use plan. I'm really excited. I did talk to Kim, is the one who submitted the application for the grant, and I think that they submitted about $80,000, requested that from UDOT as a grant to help us put together and revamp and we haven't heard back yet, but I will be calling and following through to see if there's anything I can do to kind of expedite that. I just have had a lot of other things.
To revamp what?
The general land use plan.
So $80,000.
To like hire for surveys. We have to decide, you guys are the ones that initiate the land use plan. And that's one thing I was going to ask you guys. Do you want to go with Landmark Designs? Do you want me to call Utah State? I know that they have a really good wellness survey going out right now, and they contracted out with Utah State. Tell me what you want me to do to help get that plan going, and I will look into options. Okay. But we were kind of waiting to see if we had that.
Posted on Tremont Classifieds.
But we were
Get
talking.
opinions from all over the state, but.
We've been kind of waiting to see if we get that grant, so we knew which options we have available to us in the city. Okay. All right. So go back to PowerPoint. I think we're going to get into PUDs now and where they fit on. Okay. This is the difference between we can do that one. Did I skip one?
There was one that we skipped, yes.
Yeah, that's fine. We talked about that. Okay, where does the planned unit development fit in? Okay, we've already talked about this, but this is my proof. And I gave you the Utah code. This is what Utah State Code says. It says PUDs modify the zoning standards and the density. Where's my notes? I have a little note thing. Since it changes the base zoning, it has to, in some point of the approval process, go through the legislative process. So whether it's all goes through the legislative process and you get the development agreement and the PUD at the same time, and it's already been vetted by the DRC and everything's good to go, and then it comes to you as a legislative, if it comes to you in that package, there's a lot more pressure on you guys to approve it because there's a lot of work that goes into doing that, okay? So that is, but it's still a legislative decision. That whether it's done at that end, or this is something that I posed to the city attorney that I'm still checking in on. Do we do a PUD legislative process up before with just a concept plan, knowing the restraints of our PUD code. So then they know if we can establish base density or not. Then they work out all the details and come back with a development agreement, knowing that they already have the PUD in place, which has less pressure on you to decide whether or not, because there's been less of a bunch, like the developers haven't invested. And so I'm still, as a zoning administrator, I'm still working that out with our current code and with our city attorney to see, and the DRC, to see where that would be. So I would love your feedback on that, where you guys would want that approval process to be, because it needs to be set in stone so you guys know, so that you guys know where that approval process. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about, the approval process?
It would have changed the last decision dramatically.
Yeah.
Because if he would have come with multiple options to start 8 months ago, when he said he started talking to the city, it would have been a completely different process.
But he'd already spent a lot of time in.
You know, and he came prepared with all the stuff that he had already done.
And then
he
to
decided-
backtrack is kind of.
It's like, I don't know what to tell you. I feel like there's another way, now that we have more details in this, you know, in the pie.
Yeah.
Question. That's.
Yeah, go ahead.
If our PUD is in our land use code or our land use plan, right? Then technically it's a legislative decision, but it's already been decided. Like, we already made the decision that the PUD would work. Like, if you want a higher density, you can use the PUD. That's already in the land use plan, so then.
It's not, it's in the land use plan as a tool, but it's also changing the base zoning. It's not attached to the base zoning. And that's where the confusion's gone in. It's just because they have an R112, and that's right here. This is the code 1.3305.
Yeah.
It says the developer may make an application for the consideration and approval of a PUD overlay zone. The city council shall review and approve such applications after receiving recommendation from the planning commission, as with other legislative matters. That's right at the beginning of our PUD code. So it sets it up for a legislative decision right at the beginning, but it's not attached to, it's not to say that everybody who buys R112 or R110 has that PUD attached to them, because it changes the base density and the structure of the land, and it's supported by Utah State Code and our own code. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I've always lived by the rule of, like, you make the decision once, right? Like, you make the decision after drinking
Yeah.
alcohol, then it's easy to not make that decision ever again, right? Because you
Yeah.
already made that decision, right? So, like, to me, it's like, if we already made that decision, or we're making that decision in the land use plan, then it should be easy for us to say, yeah, technically we have to approve this as a zoning change, but we already all know that this is the plan in Tremont.
Okay, so what's the difference of saying, so what you're saying is what's the difference between if somebody buys a property at R18 but then we also have an R10, you can't automatically assign the R10 zoning to it. Do you know what I mean? So is that what you're saying, the PUD is I guess I don't understand your question.
I'm just saying, like, if somebody wants to have that more density from
Yes.
the PUD, right? They can put in more things, like having more land.
Mhm.
They can, you know, what I mean,
Yes.
they can do those points that we worked on for
Yes.
a year. So then it seems crazy to say, oh, not crazy. Okay, it doesn't seem crazy. It's hard for me to understand how we can say, this is our land use plan. We want you to develop your development with this plan in mind. But after the fact, we might say, nope, you can't do that because
How is it in the land use plan?
it's part of the PUD.
But how is the PUD in the plan? It's not part of the zone yet.
So that's what I'm saying, is that, like,
We adopted that plan.
we adopted the
We
land use
adopted it as a
plan.
tool.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm just saying, like, I don't know.
But it's not a
But it's not
guaranteed
the
thing.
plan.
So this is what I was gonna ask, and this might dispel what we're doing.
Yeah.
So what made me most uncomfortable about making the decision on Overlook was the stuff that came with it, which is exactly kind of what we're talking about. We're changing it to a PUD so that we can get the stuff that comes with it.
Right.
What I was worried about is, are they gonna get through the process and something's gonna happen between me and the next person, and all of a sudden, they're gonna decide not to follow through, but the reasons why we decided a PUD was okay. And is that gonna be stuck in some sort, does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like,
that
when they
makes
say
sense.
they're gonna build something, when they say they're gonna do things, like, that's part of their contract, but I worry that once they get past us, they might,
I can give you an answer. to
do you know
that.
what I mean?
Yeah. So with the developer, they are legally bound to uphold whatever's within the code. So even if they come and say, we will do X, Y, and Z with a PUD, if it's not attached to a development agreement, they only have to do what we have set out in the code. And the code has a calculator that says all of the things that they can, how they get their bonus density, okay? And so if they get their bonus density, they don't have to add the extra water towers, even if they say they do. They don't have to do all that unless they bind it with a development agreement. So I was
Because
supposed
those
to.
water towers specifically are not part of a PUD
Right.
concession.
No, they're not.
That's why they have
That's-
to have those if we're trying to require.
Yeah.
that.
So that's what would
But we're-
scare me.
What I think Andrea is trying to talk about is the functions of the PUD that are set. The
Yes.
points that are
set.
allowed, set.
Mhm.
Like, the point that, I think, from what I understand, you can correct me. If someone comes to us with all of those things checked off, they have it
Yeah.
set, like, these are the points, here's how I fit it. They don't necessarily need a development agreement under the current statute, is that correct?
They needed a PUD approval. And if there does need to be a development agreement.
So even though they have complied with that in their plan, they still were required to contractually commit to that plan? Like, if it's part of code, that if you meet these check marks,
Yes,
then you're good.
yes.
And maybe that's the assumption
We
that's
still have
wrong.
to make the legislative decision, but that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying, like,
that's the point, yeah.
that's what I'm saying, like, we already made that decision. So it's easy for us to just approve it because
How did you already make the decision? It's just like.
If we've
because we
approved
put
the PUD,
Yeah.
we've approved the points, we've already gone through
But
the
the PUD was
hassle.
approved in it's an ordinance. It's not part of the general land use plan.
So that's what I'm saying, if we're adding it to the general land use plan. like,
How would you
if
add
that
it to the,
is
it's
our-
like, your question in my mind is like saying, how would I add R112 to the general land use plan? Like, it's like saying, we've already approved R112, so why would we not approve it? Like, the PUD is the same thing as R112. It's just a different way of applying density.
In
Does that make
different
sense?
ways with different amounts of property in that section.
I guess, and I think what Andrea again is trying to say, sounds to me like, because what I'm hearing as well is that the PUD is not part of a plan that is codified.
No.
So that's where I think we're trying to marry those two.
together.
That if it is codified, that you can you come to us with the plan, like, the 8 months in advance.
Yeah.
And you can show us, this is where the points, this is how it fits.
Yeah.
Then why couldn't we make it part of the plan to just
So you're saying,
basically
So
more
so you want to, so we're saying, why can't we take?
I think we're operating under the assumption that that's already the process. And
That's why we're having this training too.
okay, and maybe that is where we go
definitely
forward.
approved it.
Right.
You approved what?
Didn't the city council approve the PUD
No, they approved a zoning change.
a year ago?
It was a zoning change.
Well, there was
I
I
guess what good is the PUD? Like, why?
Okay, that's a great question. Why would we do the PUD? Because the PUD allows deviations from, like R110, they can only do a single family house on a 10,000 square foot lot. But let's say like they want a park or we need park space, they can take the same amount, they can take and cluster the houses in a different way. It gives the developer the ability to be more flexible with what they provide the city. But they also will use it to get as much, they'll use it to do, they can do lots of different things with the PUD. If we need an open park in an area, but we can't have it with the current R112 because all the houses have to be spread out. A PUD allows maybe a townhouse in a single family residence house. So if you have a zone for single family, you can't put a townhouse there. But a PUD would say, you know what, we can put a townhouse here and then we can have a park. But that's up to the legislative discretion. So the PUD, some cities don't do PUDs because they're a lot of work. And
Okay, so it is in the code. Like
It is-
on the city website, chapter 1.33, planned unit developments.
Yes.
So that's where I'm confused, because I know that we there was a code
There
change.
wasn't a PUD code, and then there was.
And we made it,
Yeah.
right?
But there's
So that's why I'm
there's
confused.
also zoning code in there. There's also a code for R112. There's also a
Yeah.
code for R110. There's standards that you can do in all of one of those. So it's just like one of those codes.
Yeah.
But, and so the PUD is the same thing as an R112, R110. It's just another zoning tool for the city. Does that make sense? So did that answer your question on what good is a PUD?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
If it doesn't, it's okay to say.
Oh, yeah.
And I think,
Because we're having conversations that,
So it's gonna
You-
allow.
you wanna- you wanna hash-
things
you wanna
to
hash out your
develop
questions.
That are outside the scope ability of what's already been
Yeah.
put there on the plan.
so I guess you're trying to decide if people should bring it to us in the beginning before they spend a lot of time in engineering and money and.
And then I would want to educate you on the code so that you would know exactly what they can do. Like, so you would know, okay, they can put in this section of land with the current zoning, they can put 100 houses. If we use a PUD, this is the basics that you need to know, they can put 150 units. And then you would know that that's the maximum they can do. And so I'm trying to pin down the PUD code so that you know up ahead of time, this is how it can be used. And then we will let the engineers and on the DRC negotiate all of the details so that when it comes to you in a package at the end, they already have that base code, that base density established, whether they can do it or not. But what's happening is they're going through they're doing that at the end of the negotiations. And once the developer comes and they've worked with the city, gone through multiple DRC meetings, multiple meetings, and they have a lot of investment, they're expecting it to be approved because there's been a lot of work put into it up front. I argue that it would make sense that they need to know first if they have the PUD so that we avoid frustrations on both parties. Because you're gonna get a lot of pressure from both sides if you wait till the very end. You're gonna get a lot of residential pressure and you're gonna get a lot of pressure from the developers as well if you wait till there's been a whole bunch of work put into it.
But with that, I wonder, without an engineer looking at each case, some things probably aren't
We would
possible.
Yeah, we would still have to go through, water's an issue, culinary water, or sewer capacity. We would still go through, as with any development, say, is the city capable, kind of like a soft check to see, are we capable of this density? And if it's something that's possible and capable, if you approve the PUD first, then they have the ability. And I don't know, I have to actually talk to the lawyer to see, you might have to do both at the same time. I don't know, but I want to know what your preference is. Because to me, this is something that's been weighing on my mind a lot. So if you guys have any suggestions as I talk to the city attorney on this process, if you would rather have the PUD approval done up front or at the very end with the development agreement and the PUD at the same time, I would love to know your thoughts on
It
that.
seems like though, you give someone a soft approval and then in the end you give them a no. It almost makes it feel worse, like their hopes got really high.
That makes sense, yeah. Okay,
And I think one of the reasons that they didn't do that for is because legally, if they come to us with an idea of this is what we want to do, and we say yes or no, whatever, we can change the code before they actually do something.
not once the application's been put in. They're able to, or am I wrong? Yeah, once they're going through the process, and they have an application put in, then they go based off of what the current code is.
Okay. I was thinking that was the thing with the slaughterhouse a couple years ago.
Well, I was gonna say, there's different applications for different things. So again, back to kind of what I said, some of this gets generalized because of the ebb and flow of what it's going to be and what they're coming to you. So if you really think about it, you guys have overseen this past year alone, stuff outside of what we thought would be our growth pattern or what we thought we wanted in different areas of the city. But you've had developers and people coming into you with an idea saying, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? And that's what's messed up our process, is because we've skipped out of what that was supposed to look like, because who knew we'd have the growth that we've had in just 5 years. And so where Christine's kind of going with this is, what application would you guys like to see for that process, what's gonna simplify it for you, what's gonna, where's the happy medium on both of these where we can bring this together?
The basic, and it might come down to what the attorney says, guys. But the basis right now that I want to establish is that the PUD is another legislative decision. That's the main thing, is the PUD has to go through the legislature, and once they, you can get a zone change, but then if they want to use a PUD, they have to apply for that as well. That's a separate,
Which
that's
is
separate.
considered an overlay.
Yes,
That's where we've kind of, that's what I was just talking about, is that it is part of the code, but it is applied on top of.
Yeah.
But
but any overlay,
code,
yeah, and any overlay that changes the basic function of the land use still has to go through a legislative process.
Which is, and again, coming back to that other thread, again, trying to make this process codified
Mhm.
is the goal. And that's where we're like, okay, PUDs make sense. It gives them flexibility. If they come to us with the PUD overlay in mind, we already have the base zoning. We don't need to change that. We just say what's allowed in that PUD, put it on there, and boom, you're done. You're approved.
Yeah.
Because you've met all of the criteria that we've hashed out in meetings before, and we've talked about that, and we can change that. Maybe that's where, part of planning the land use plan, that comes into play, is that maybe people don't like the PUD. Okay, that's fine. We can change that. Let's say we have one still though, because that's when it's easier for the developer when they come to that first meeting and they see, well, normally it'd be like, well, what should I prepare for? How many different directions it's almost like, you don't have guardrails, it just explodes. And I can do anything in the world. It's like, no. Here's the base unit or the base whatever zoning. We have allotted this PUD overlay. Come prepared with things that check this box, and heck, yeah, we'll start from there. And that's what I think. Again, that part of the process, I feel bad. I really do for the gentleman that went through all the work, only to have us be like, well, you said there was potentially one other plan?
But we weren't told about that, and
we
that's not
weren't
our
told.
fault.
No, but that's the point. Had we been involved up
We
front,
would have been.
we would have been able to say, you know what, let's see a couple of options before you spend, $10,000 on plans and.
And I plan to do a very good job of giving you guys big heads up. Like at the end of the meeting, I'm going to give you just a little heads up on what's coming up at your next planning commission meeting, so that you don't have to just get it to the night of, and then you know where we are with the legislative process on that. So
Awesome.
See, to add on some of this, that's been the frustration that we've had for years, is the dynamic has grown, but we haven't grown with the dynamic. And then we've lacked the ability to grow with the dynamic. And now we're trying to get that dynamic put in place. So we're gonna have our growing pains as we're trying to put the Lego blocks together. But I'm excited to be working with, Christine on this. She's got a strong passion for this stuff, and I'm excited to see who we get for our plan.
Which again means you can't go anywhere for at least 10 years,
yeah,
right?
that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, and as long as you understand the commitment you've made, we will all get out of here just.
My husband's ready to retire and let me work full time.
So I do have one concern that kind of has to do with our land use development plan. And maybe this was you asking where we're going to get our information and asking these things, but I did talk to the mayor maybe within the last 2 weeks about our water issue and the stuff that we've already had that is already currently in the process of even being developed. And it's like, we just don't have good numbers for approving more, given the fact that we don't even know where our numbers are with our water. And then the other problem, and I'm not bringing this to you, I'm saying I'd like to be educated in how to make this decision in the future, because if water ends up being our boundary, that will definitely play into it. But when it comes to these huge developments that we're getting down the pipeline, people spending so much money and us having water be the constraint, that's a huge issue, and not fair that we've gotten everybody spending a lot of money and we don't have those numbers yet. So I'd like to know, hopefully, where we're going with that. And if that can be our constraint to slow things down all across the board right now, I would be happy to use it, because there are still a lot of houses that are for sale that aren't selling. And it makes me wonder why we're approving so much development with all of these numbers that the state is giving us about where we're growing, but we're not. Why are these houses that are already built not selling? And I'm not saying they're not, and I'm also just saying it's interesting. I mean, we were in a position where everything was selling really, really fast.
Yeah.
I don't expect that to be the case anymore, but I do expect those houses to be moving. And so us planning more development doesn't always make sense. And if we need to slow it down with this information, I'd be grateful to do it, is what I'm saying.
And that's something that I'm going to be working. We've kind of actually slowed a ton down just with the transition. There, you don't even know the list of people I have that I'm supposed to get back to, because there's a lot of people that were working. And so, and right now we're on hold just as I get caught up on stuff, and until we get the city planner in, and then that will give briefing time for the Carl to get us better numbers on what we need for, because water would be a substantial evidence on either an administrative or a legislative decision, because water is very essential for us to make sure that we have culinary water. So
One of the things that was frustrating for me is to hear that report we got a few meetings ago, that we have 4 or 5 wells and only 2 pumps that work or whatever. And if, and we're dependent upon you guys on the administrative side to screen that.
Yeah.
And when it comes to us, we hope all of that groundwork has already been done before it comes to us for approval. Because we have to have confidence in that aspect of the process.
And to kind of tag on to that, you're going to see more with the DRC meeting involvement on Christine's end with that, and more input from the department heads to get the different informations put together on that to better, let this go along, because that's not the first time I've heard that very complaint of, of the worry from whether it's people, out in the community or, people at work here. I've had like different department heads outside of Public Works come and ask me just that exact same thing.
It's great to have a new $1 million gallon tank up on the hill, but where are we going to get the water to put in? Right.
And that's why I say a lot of this, we're in this fun little growing pain transition, but we're putting this together, and as this gets put together, it's going to be considerably smoother process with a lot more, information being able to get out there to everybody, especially coming out of the DRC meetings.
What I'm hearing is that you're potentially going to have a resource in the DRC meetings that is intimately aware with things like water.
Well, it's all there now.
Okay.
And because you've got all the department heads going over all of that, but in summary on some of this stuff, because we didn't realize what the growth was going to be. And so some of this, we haven't like, I don't really know to say, we haven't stuck with the process is the correct thing to say, or whether to say we've been inundated with people that want change outside of what the city's plan was that we put together some 20 years ago for the, for the initial, ideas for where the city was going to grow, what the growth potentials were going to be. But then who knew that you would have the growth that we would have in the state of Utah alone, let alone up here in northern Utah, let alone at Tremont. And so I don't think the state was ready for the influx of people to come here, much less the city of Tremont to be ready for everything that everybody's been doing.
Now you have an outlier. You also have what is possible to plan for.
Exactly. And
Just
so
that's
why we're putting this together, and the scopability that we are putting it together is because now we're going to scrutinize things as they come down and be better prepared for what each individual thing will be as it comes down, as the plans are submitted.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty much done with and I don't spell things correctly sometimes. So.
Find it.
Don't find it.
Find it.
Okay, so this is my conclusion. This is just to wrap up the training, is to grow responsibly, a city must first establish clear land use plan and align its code with that vision. When we choose to deviate, we should formally amend the plan so that the direction remains transparent. This creates a unified process between the city and its residents and ensures that we stay in harmony with state and local law. Okay, that's kind of my summary. I'm really excited to work with you guys, and I will do all that I can to get you all the information that you guys need to make good decisions on all ends. So
Thank you.
that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Crystal, can I take 2 seconds?
Yeah, I think you can go over the reports. Yeah, yeah, we're gonna go down the iPad.
Well, are we doing, we need to move to point 5.
Citizen engagement first
Citizen
and then
engagement.
comments and reports?
Yeah, I have something else that comments and reports too, so.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. This is interesting.
It's public comments, basically.
Okay, residents may address the planning commission on any issue not listed on the agenda, which is not the same as comments and reports. It's just that, citizen engagement. Okay, we're gonna read the rules of engagement just so everybody understands. This is, I like this.
It's not me.
Well, whoever put it together, thank you. I appreciate you writing this and putting it on paper.
Can you clarify something on that? The reason that there's public comments not on the agenda is because we didn't have a public hearing. It's not like we don't want people to comment on. It was a training, and so
Yeah.
usually there'll be public comments if we need public hearing.
Citizen
Yeah.
engagement is all
Well,
public
that's-
comments.
It sounds like that's what this is morphing into, is
Yeah.
the public comments section. Which, again, it can morph in different ways because I'm in favor of as much citizen discussion in these meetings as possible, as much as wanted. So as far as I'm concerned, when I'm in charge of the meeting, I'm happy to make multiple sections where citizens can talk before, if there's, because the agendas are published. If you see something on the agenda and you want to come to this meeting prepared with something so that we can have it as part of our discussion, then after our discussion, you're able to comment on what we discussed as well. I'm all in favor of that. So having multiple public comment sections in a meeting is totally appropriate in my mind. Having said that, there's not like a huge public business like you're saying. There's not
It's just a training.
It's just a training. So this is going to take that place of public comment period, which is usually only once in a meeting. But here we go. So there's a dignity standard. These are hard conversations sometimes. If you're personally affected by it, it's going to touch nerves. But we ask you please give us some dignity, and we will do our darndest to make sure we are doing the same for you, giving you a voice, letting you participate, and being involved. We want that. Priority. Speakers who registered online, which is new. Can someone go over that?
It's not in, it'll be on the new website.
Okay,
So
okay.
May-ish.
So this is prepping
for
for
that.
future. Looks like we'll be able to register online to discuss things. And then a sign-up sheet at the door. First come, first served. Okay. That's news to me also. But you will have time to speak. Time limit, 3 minutes per individual. And I'm again saying, that's why I like the multiple discussions. If people have 3 minutes before, and then we have a discussion, and they have another 3 minutes, I feel like it bookends, and they've gotten pretty good about it. Response. Under Utah state law, the council cannot debate or take actions on non-agenda items. Again, why it's important that we have that idea in mind when we're approving the agenda. If you come to the meeting and you see that the agenda doesn't have something on there, as you wanna make sure we hit it, amend the agenda and we'll have a conversation about it. We will listen and direct staff to follow. Okay. So we open this meeting up to citizens. You're welcome to come to the mic and podium, and you got 3 minutes.
Who's gonna time?
Good question.
Oh, they get the clock up there, they'll tell us.
Well, that's not good enough. Just kidding.
The clock around really
Andrew,
fast.
would
My
you
name's
chime
Lane
for us?
Wilding. I technically don't live in Garland, I live in Box Elder County. And I appreciate what Christine is doing. I'm part of the MPI team for the West area. And there is a lot of talk about the annexation that's going to happen with my property and the property behind us. As I look at the zoning ordinance for annexation, I am concerned about how the property is going to get zoned after it gets annexed. Right now, it's zone 0. And I personally do not want to have businesses or condominiums or whatever behind my house. I would like to have a influence in how it gets zoned. And I yet have been able to trying to figure out how that happens and how that occurs. Because as I read the ordinance, it appears to me that somebody, whether it's you guys or another group or whoever, gets to establish what that zoning is going to be. And I would like to be involved in that. And so I would like to offer that as a suggestion. Another one I would like to encourage is, I appreciate again what Christine's done today, but I would like to see a simple flow chart that we as the citizens can actually use and say, here's the process, how we change zoning, how things get zoned, how a plan has come in, how it goes through the process, a simple flow chart that we can all look at and say, yes, we're here at this step, we're at this step, we're at this step, this is when we want to have public input, so that we can all be on the same page, going in the same direction. I find it very confusing and I have no idea when to stand up and say something. And so I make comments quite regularly. I think that's about all I had at this point, but again, thank you for taking time to listen and actually making an effort to listen.
Thank you. Thank you for
Did I
coming.
do my 3 minutes? Well, I got more.
Thank you.
I just have a question.
You state your name.
Michelle Martin. So if a developer comes in on a zoning and he meets all the criteria, then he can do that development. So on a PDU, is it the same thing? If a developer meets all the criteria, all the points, then does he automatically get to do that?
He has to have the PUD approved first.
It has to be approved, each PUD has to be approved individually. Even if they meet everything, can they still be denied, say, infrastructure reasons, you know?
It's
or-
the same, can I ask?
Yeah.
It's the same, if somebody buys the land, think of it like this, if somebody buys the land at R110, even if they meet all of the requirements of R18, they can't develop it because it's still R110.
Right.
So even if they meet all of the requirements of a PUD, they can't develop it unless it's zoned, unless the overlay is applied to the zone. Does that
So
answer your question?
It still takes a decision by us to
Yeah.
approve that process.
So
But what
that
we've
can-
tried to do is make that process easier on developers so that they know what to expect and grant for flexibility for that process to be approved
yeah, so-
before.
I understand, so, you know, they come in with this plan for R10.
Yeah.
And it meets all of the code, you legally cannot deny him to do that.
Only if the PUD's been approved.
Well,
Okay,
even if we without a PUD.
But say
if
without
you-
a PUD.
Yeah,
okay,
if they came in and zoned R110 and they check all the boxes of
They can do
R110,
it.
they own the property, they have the right to build.
Okay, and then they want to do a PUD,
That has to be approved.
that's different, that doesn't automatically get approved just because they meet all the boxes.
And it has to be a PUD for R110.
Yes.
So
Right,
it
right.
can be a different zone.
Okay, great, that's all I have, thanks.
Ben Greener, Tremont resident. I'm pretty much against PUDs. Over the years, I've seen too many contractors come in, somehow they get the zoning changed when they know what they bought it as. And then they start, well, we want to do this, we'll give you that, we want to do this. And it just has never, in my opinion, turned out that way ever. We've never gotten as a city what we expected to get. And there's too much we'll do this, we'll do that. Just too much negotiation that never pans out. I say, let's get our plans together, get what we want the city to look like in our zoning, and build from that zoning. That's just my opinion. I stayed with you guys for several years, and I just watched too many things not come that was said would be done. I've got a son that lives in another town. They will not even touch a PUD. They just stick with the zoning. They clean their zoning up the way they want their city to look, and I would just suggest you do that. Get that zoning set up the way you want the city to look, and stick to it. Quit letting the contractors come in with their big game plans. Well, it doesn't pencil out, we can't make any profit. That's how you bought the property. Build from there. My opinion. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Linda Alico, we live in Tremont. We were just at our daughter's house in Haslet, Texas. She lives in a subdivision and they've started building houses like crazy. And I want to say 4,000 houses. They had 2 ways in and out. There was so much traffic. One of the ways went by the mayor's house and he's closed that road. So now there's only 1 way out and they stay in their house an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half in the evening without going on the road because there's just too much traffic. So just be careful with what you say okay to, because it'll happen here too.
I'm with you. Traffic and transit is a big deal to me.
Can I do a follow-up?
If you, how many seconds does he have left?
10 seconds.
Oh, so he does have some time. You still have, you're allotted 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, no, I've had follow-up. Just quickly, the subdivision that's being planned down on Iowa String, 70 acres. That is being planned, 500 units to go in there. My concern is if they build that in there and do what they've got planned, I don't know how the traffic's gonna ever flow out of there. Because you're gonna leave south, you're gonna go over to Barfus's garage, go south, and then go over to the south interchange. That's a county road. It can't handle the traffic right now. That's gonna have to be updated. And I don't know if we get to work with the county or if the county's gonna work with us, but somebody's gonna have to update that road to handle the amount of traffic that's gonna go there. So as we start looking at these developments, we gotta think about how in the world is all that traffic gonna flow? Not to mention 500 houses, where are we gonna put 500 new jobs here in this town? We gotta start thinking about that as well, because those people will all migrate to the south and it's gonna become just another feeder community to somebody else.
Do they have to do a traffic study when they do development?
What's that?
I was just asking Christine.
Yeah, we would require.
They
traffic study
require
for sure.
traffic study.
Yeah, and I would talk to the, and that would, yeah.
Cassandra Merrill. So I live in a townhouse. I love my house, but I personally would love it if you guys looked at like duplexes or something. They're a little more affordable than like a single family house, but you still have a yard and you still have land that's your own. Because right now my house stops when the concrete stops. And so my son, when he wants to go outside every second of every day, I can't just let him run out and play because we need to do something inside. Or if I had a yard that was fenced, I could let him go out and play with the door open and I could watch him. I know a lot of young families that feel very similarly, where if they could just have a little bit of yard that's their own to get them that stepping stone. I mean, I would love to have like an acre of land, but we just can't afford that right now where we are personally. And so to have that stepping stone be something with a yard, even though, man, I love my townhouse, but there's just no yard. And there's a park there, which is great, but to have something that you can own this grass and not just cement, I don't know. That's my idea, so thanks.
Thank you.
I'm Jason Eldred. I'm also a resident of Tremont. First, to echo the gentleman in blue, moratorium on PUDs, I think makes a lot of sense. It seems like there's some confusion on, if they meet all these criteria of PUD, really, I think we need to understand it's the exception and not the rule, and not having them seems to simplify things. The second concern I have is impact fees. What understanding do we have for impact fees? How are we charging those? What's the actual true mechanisms for those? I don't know that, like, I don't know where to find that resource exactly, or that anybody has a true understanding of that. I don't know if you guys do. Like, do we know what it costs?
It's not on the agenda, so we can't discuss it right now.
Well, that's something we need to look into.
Yeah, well, I think it was a meeting a couple people.
So, while we're looking at the water and, those things, that's one thing I would encourage is if we can start to get a true up of our actual costs.
Give me that, I'll get you my contact card. You can get over and, take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have business.
Hello, my name is Morgan Meserly, and I live in the Freeman Farms subdivision, the one that was just annexed in. I actually live directly next to the cement plant, to give you some context. I also have questions about impact fees, because throughout this annexation process, there was a lot of he said, she said, this was promised. We have no idea what is actually in agreement and who's on the hook for the $16,000 in impact fees, which is an estimate. Again, don't even know if that's the exact amount of impact fees. That could have changed given the circumstances with water. So I think we need more understanding of, are we going to have to pay that? Is the developer, which was verbally agreed to, don't know if it's in writing, is he going to pay for that? How much is it going to be? How do we pay it? Is it a payment plan? I think a concern that my neighborhood had, and I won't speak for all my neighbors, is not everyone could just write a check for 16 grand all of a sudden for an annexation that we were volunteered for. So more knowledge we have on that, the better we can understand the commitments, how that's going to be deployed. We would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're just gonna put a box on the door now. Your
I write
car.
down everything. We need to do one of the videos with you. That's really what we need. So everybody knows who you are. One of those, the Instagram videos? Yeah.
I'm sure those were the words that you wanted to hear today. You should do an Instagram.
You should do an Instagram video. They're so informative. I love them. No? Okay.
Today's week, I've been asked 4 times to not cut my hair and about 12 to get my hair cut. So it's good.
Do your thing.
So answering the code questions, fantastic.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. Everybody,
Do we need to make a motion?
Come on.
to Close public
No,
comment?
no.
I know you want to.
Andrew.
You're here.
I just
Anybody? I'm just priming the pump. I don't know.
It's okay.
Okay, thank you. We'll close our citizen engagement section and move to point 6, comments and reports.
I have two
And
things.
Christie has.
I'll go and then I have, okay, so this is, we're not taking comments on it right now because we are still, we'll go up. Yeah, you got it right there. Okay, if this is coming down the pipeline, I'm bringing it up to the MPI this week.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I just want to give you a heads up for something that's coming up on the next planning commission. And it might, do you have a pointer? Yeah, the pointer. Okay, so this property right here, the home, I talked to the developer and it's zoned RM.
They can't see which one, Christian.
Sorry.
Just, I think I'm the only one that can't see it, sorry.
I can't either.
It's over here. Can you see that? This section right here is what that yellow, the front, the R10.
Where she's pointing. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
the R110, that section right there. The developer wants to come in and he's gonna give me a concept plan April 1st. And as soon as I get it, I'll shoot the concept plan out to you. He is going to become, I want to give you guys heads up on legislative acts that are going to be coming. So this is just a heads up. It's, you know where the car wash is, that pink little square at the bottom is the car wash, okay? So, and then that big green area is the golf course, okay?
Thank you.
So that is the golf course.
The public facilities.
He's wanting to rezone it to RM16. I know I chatted with him. He wants to create a different multiple products, but we still have to, I'm mailing out letters to all of those homeowners because they have to be mailed a letter. I'm bringing it up with the NPI and then doing all the legislative things that need to be done with that. And he will give me a concept plan and it has to go through DRC. I'm gonna do a soft, like, kind of presented. I don't think I have a DRC meeting before, but I am going to run it by, try to get you some stats from the Public Works on what that would do to change if they change the density there. So I just wanted you to be able to go drive by it, see what you would think. But it's currently zoned R110. Big concern is outlet roads. There's only one outlet road right now. They are working with the property above it, the MV, to try to get a roadway that goes all the way to 1000 North. That's my biggest concern with this one is where's the traffic gonna go? That will be an issue. So I don't have any of the reports or stats or anything. I just am giving you a heads up on that, but that's coming.
Now, you said they were requesting a change to MD 16?
RM16.
RM16.
Yeah, that would allow them the flexibility of a PUD without getting a PUD. So they could put townhouses, they could do different things, but they could, if it's approved RM16, they could do all apartments too. So that's where, if you want to figure out, like some of the zones, just that little section is RM16, and part of his property does have a little bit of RM16, and he's wanting to extend that. As a council, if you want us to go away from the PUD and not use that, then we can figure out a way to say, well, we want this portion to still remain single family housing, so we can transition into like multiple family housing. And if you want to do, or if you want to keep it R110, or however you want, whatever you guys want, but whatever the whole consensus is, it's not my decision. I'm just giving you the information.
How many acres is it?
I don't know. I'll look that up. I don't really know. I could probably look it up right now on my map. But.
One thing I was just thinking about, because we were talking about water.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's pertinent to do a retroactive study on that particular topic for how much we have and how
much we've already approved.
How much we, yeah. Because we've got pretty large developments that have been approved that even if you show up and say, well, this would actually we would be able to handle this. Well, these haven't been connected yet. You know, 3/4 of these hasn't even been started. So we're behind the 8 ball in some respects with that topic.
Okay, I will get on that. And that might be something where maybe I'll push him off and say, we have to do some studies on waters before we put it on your agenda. And that's something that I don't mind doing at all. So just saying, before we do any zoning changes, we are going to get that study on the water in before we know. And I'm happy to do that.
Something that I've been thinking about is there such thing as like a League of Cities?
A League of Cities?
Like where we can go to the state and we can say, hey, as a group, we're noticing a similar thing. We have a solution. If
I don't know.
Like we are in the same arid climate as all the cities in the state. So I imagine that there would be a way for us to be like, okay, as municipalities, we recognize that we are at a point where, having gathered this data, we're at this level. We need this if we want to follow your capacity requirements or for all these different
Gotcha. So we can kind of see where we are at compared to other municipalities and then.
Yeah, not even necessarily compared to. The data gathering for us is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So that we can approach Garland or Elwood or whatever and be like, hey, this is what we're experiencing. What do you have?
Okay.
And then they can maybe do their study and we can all kind of start coming together and be like, okay, statewide, we need to come up with something, whether that's increase reservoir capacity and plummet from the Colorado River, I don't know, whatever. But like fresh water is more important to me than the Salt Lake. I hate to break it to anybody.
So our county has, like, I went to that Fox Other County Summit 2 years in a row now, and there are, I don't know what organizations or whatever they are throughout the county that do get together with other counties in the state to discuss those things. Like our county had the water information, how much water we would need per unit and plan things like that. So I don't know if that's from the state, like if that's statewide that they have that data or, but I know that our county does go together with other counties to do that.
With how much our questions have been surrounding water, I would be surprised if the data originated from the people here. I would be more, that would be something I would expect. The state money has done a study. However that was performed, I have no idea.
It was a lot of money too.
And if it was how accurate was it to Tremont as opposed to one other, sorry, any other city?
See, that's what I was gonna throw at you. We do, the state does, because I sit on 2 of the boards that are this way, different entities, and so I'm with the Yoka Coalition or the Northern Utah Coalition, as for the Ordinance Compliance Association, but you could create your own little group like that, and I would encourage you to actually do that. Then you could bring in what's here, or if you want to reach out to different, but now if you create it, it's your information that you're trying to obtain. Or if you belong to a different group, you're taking their information to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, the acreage is 36.29 acres. Okay,
Sweet.
Type 16, a lot of houses.
so that's something for you to kind of, I will get you more information in email, and then we will definitely have enough, begin that information out to the public. I've actually already got some of that stuff out, okay?
Okay.
Okay, then Christy Bocott has the other item.
You didn't sit in your chair.
I know, I've been booted.
What?
I've been booted.
You've been booted.
I'm a stickler for the rules. I am, if it's an ordinance, you're gonna follow it. Not just you, everybody, including me. So in order to appoint somebody to planning commission, it goes through the ex officio. Happens to be me. Never done that before. They have never done that before in Tremont. It's just been, oh, I want you to be on here. I want you to be on here. We're gonna do it right. Okay, so I do have applications, and this does apply to anyone that's sitting in this room also. If you want a chance to be on the planning commission, to be part of this, you don't have to, are you laughing at me or you're?
No, I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this. This is great.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Listen, if you don't follow ordinance with me, I'm gonna let you know in a hurry. Because we need to bring things back around. We need to do things the right way, so we're not in trouble. Okay, so everybody on the planning commission, you need to fill out an application also. We're gonna do this right. Anyone in this room, if you would like to have a chance to serve on the planning commission. Now, the big mystery with this is, and it's really not a mystery, people say, if I don't live in city limits, I can't be on the planning commission. Yes, you can. If you are in the extended boundaries where they can extend the zones, you can be on, if you're that annexation, you can be on the planning commission. Because anything that happens here does affect you.
Because you're in a future annexation line.
And so I had a really good long talk with the guy at the, what's it called? Ombudsman Group for Property Rights.
That was right on the tip of my tongue.
They-
I was right there.
You were supposed to have that. He schooled me right, which I already knew because I've talked to him since 2009. And I love what the gentleman back here said. And he drilled that into my brain. You don't have to allow PUDs in your community. That's a tool. You don't have to allow them. So just keep that in the brain cell somewhere. Anybody out here that wants to run for planning commission, you need to realize that this is the way it's going to be. So here are applications. Everybody up here needs to take one. You can either just bring them into the city office, give them to Haley. I'll get with her tomorrow, let her know that they're going to be shoveling in. Or if you know where I live, drop it at my house, whichever's easier. I will go over them, and then I'm actually going to run them past Christine.
Oh, you're kicking us off.
No.
We don't know what's going to happen yet, but we're going to run it like it's supposed to be ran.
Fun.
If I didn't like you so well, I'd probably thump you. But we're going to run it like the way it's supposed to be ran. It's in the code. And we haven't been following code since 2019.
You're saying that application is in the?
Nothing has been done right.
That we were supposed to apply and we're supposed to be approved.
You're supposed to apply. It's supposed to go through the process. The ex officio is the one that is supposed to go through the applications. Then I can take them to I'll take them to Christine
City
because she's
council?
actually here. And then it will be taken to the council and the council will approve or disapprove.
Because
So whatever
I
they
was
approve.
taken through the officio.
Oh, I wasn't.
And then I was,
A lot of them were not.
and then I was interviewed, and then I got.
I was interviewed at city or by the city council member, the mayor, and one other person, I can't remember. his name.
Probably Archibald, that's who I was.
Well, that was one of the city council members, but I was
Oh,
thinking
yeah,
of the city.
Okay,
manager.
So we're just gonna do things right. So,
Yeah.
and so,
I'm going to interject. I've been talking to a lot of lawyers and I have a good friend that's a lawyer and was a city attorney in Reno, Nevada for like 20 years. And he told me something that helped me. And he says, you're going to make mistakes. We're going to miss things. He's like, but when it comes to land use and running a city, you do your very best to do it right. And if you don't do it right, you do it again. And he's like, that will keep you safe. If it's not done right, then you have to, and he's like, that's with codes, with ordinances, with anything, applications. If it's not done right, you do it again. You have to do it over again.
Is there going to be a pay reduction?
You're probably gonna get the same pay I get, which is, my son says, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 5 cents an hour. So I don't know what it's
We
like.
get literally nothing.
I know. So pay reduction. Hey,
You know,
Christmas
they
dinner.
You have to start paying.
We
So
did
here's,
this dinner.
here's
Be
me,
grateful for
right
Christmas
there, and
dinner.
take one if you need one.
You didn't. So within like the next
I
2
do
weeks?
break ones.
Is that the time frame, 2 weeks?
I'm gonna cut it off in 2 weeks. So probably April 15th.
Okay. Tax day, huh?
I didn't say that.
Okay, I'm glad you asked. Yeah, when taxes
Should be
are
a good
due.
election.
Mine are already paid.
Okay, thank you for comments and reports. I will accept a Whoa, there's a hand.
I heard you say that we would have an opportunity for comments after this.
That was if we approved it in the agenda as part of it. So there's times when we will have, like if we have,
I recommend you corner us after the meeting.
Sure. But just so it's clarified again, if there's what are we talking about? We're talking
And a
about
public notice.
public hearing. If there is a public hearing on an action, like legislative or administrative action, then what I usually like to do is add to the agenda a comment section before the hearing, and then the hearing, and then we'll keep the citizen engagement section after. So then there's two.
For the clarification.
Yeah. Yes, that's clarification. And Tiffany's been so great to get these all put together for us. We're thankful for her.
Mhm.
So I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
It's been moved,
second.
seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for
Oh,
coming.
and don't keep this.
No, don't keep the book.